Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Kent Lutzen. We begin tonight in Polson, where a roof collapsed at Linderman Elementary School earlier this evening. Polson police officers responded to the call about a fire alarm going off at 2:30 on Saturday. While en route, the officers said they got word that there was no fire, and witnesses reported that the roof had collapsed. When the police arrived on scene, they saw that the roof had partially collapsed on the southwest side of the school over the gym and locker rooms. No one was inside at the time, and there were no injuries reported. The police currently believe that the collapse was caused by the weight of melting ice and snow. They are encouraging people to stay away from the school until further notice.
It is an unstable environment inside the tape. With the weather and the snow still on top of the roof and the potential of the water freezing and expanding and causing more problems, it's highly likely that more of it will collapse over the next 24 to 48 hours.
Due to structural issues, the upcoming Polson Pirates boys and girls basketball games have been moved to Salish Kootenai College. And the Kalispell Fire Department was dispatched to a structure fire on Santa Fe Street earlier Saturday morning. When they arrived, they found heavy flames showing from the garage, as well as vehicles inside and outside of the structure. The fire was contained, but there was smoke damage to the home. Kalispell Fire said the residents had been working on a car in the garage when the fire started. There was gasoline, a fuel tank, and a fuel pump, as well as a propane heater in the garage. Kalispell Fire released a statement that said, quote, "The area was not properly vented, causing an ignition of gasoline vapors and the car associated with the repair work." The Kalispell Fire Department was assisted by the Evergreen, Smith Valley, and Whitefish Fire Departments, as well as Kalispell Police and Flathead Electric. No one was injured, and the incident has been ruled an accident. In the Montana Highway Patrol reported in the last month, 5 troopers were involved in crashes that were not their fault. MHP said that these crashes were all caused by people driving irresponsibly. There were luckily no major injuries, but in some cases the troopers were in their cars when struck. On their Facebook page, they also added Major Levine's patrol car was nearly sideswiped on Friday while he was out investigating another crash. Adding, the problem is people should be more concerned, if not for their own safety, but because it's not just the drivers who will pay for the damage. According to MHP, these crashes cost the taxpayers thousands of dollars, since now these vehicles need to either be fixed or replaced altogether. MHP said there are easy ways to avoid these situations. Have appropriate tires, slow down, follow at a greater distance, make sure your vehicle is cleaned off and headlights are on to avoid limited visibility, never drive under the influence, stay home if law enforcement recommends it, unless it's an emergency, buckle up and slow down for emergency vehicles. For a full list of tips, you can go to KPAX.com. And moving along to weather, we've had some mild temperatures move into the area, but you can expect cloudy skies tomorrow. Let's go to meteorologist Russ Thomas for his first forecast. Russ?
Yeah, I think definitely more clouds and sun tomorrow, though I do think we may sneak in some sunshine. I tell you what, though, look at our current temperatures, and something just popped up here a few minutes ago, and I'm going to check and see if this is real, because this looks like it may be out of the ordinary, or at least not out of the ordinary, but certainly a little bit higher than I suspect. 54 right now in Kalispell, whereas the rest of western Montana is sitting in the low to mid 30s. So again, I'll do a little investigating on that, see if that is the actual temperature in Kalispell. I think that may be off just a little bit. With the computer there, satellite and radar image, things looking pretty quiet right now across western Montana. We'll have more coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Russ. Avalanche danger is increasing in higher elevations. This morning, Logan King with the West Central Montana Avalanche Center said that there is considerable danger in the backcountry and moderate danger in all other mountain areas. Layers that have been built up over time are compromised by shifting temperatures, increased moisture, and rainfall. Their main concern right now is wind slabs above 6,100 feet. A wind slab is a slab built up of layers of snow deposited or formed by the wind. So when the layers built up under that slab are unstable, the entire slab could come loose and cause an avalanche. If you plan on backcountry skiing this weekend, make sure you're prepared and are constantly evaluating the risk in your environment. The WCAC said that these kinds of slides are considered what they call low probability but high consequence, meaning they are hard to trigger, but when they do slide, the consequences could be dire. And after a summer marked by fire and smoke, Seeley Lake is celebrating the cold weather with their annual pond hockey tournament. MTN's Donna Lakatua has more on how Seeley Lake is recuperating from a dry summer.
Warm smiles and cold beer welcomed locals, tourists, and hockey players to Seeley Lake this weekend. The 8th annual Seeley Lake Pond Hockey Tournament hosted 44 teams from all across the states and even Canada.
we get together once a year and make it happen, and just people getting to visit and have a great time with each other.
It's really magical. Walking down that hill on Friday night, seeing the wall tents and hearing the noise on the ice is just, it's essentially a different experience.
This year, however, locals are using this warm winter time to recover from a nightmare fire season.
The Ice Pond Hockey Tournament has always been important to this community, but now more so than ever. Business owners are still reeling from the economic damage wrought by the fires.
I think this is a huge economy booster for Sealy since we had a rough summer, and we're hoping this is a kickoff to a really good winter.
Saying summer was rough is an understatement. The numerous fire complexes choked the town of Sealy Lake with smoke and shut down businesses, homes, and schools. Linderman, who owns Lindy Steakhouse, is one of many Sealy Lake business owners who lost their main source of revenue this last fire season. Though mixed weather caused for a couple speed bumps in preparation, Sealy residents were ready for the snow and worked hard all winter to make the pond hockey tournament the best it could be.
Well, the snow caused a lot of extra additional hours. Like I said, we've been out here Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, same thing with New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. The weather doesn't give us a break at all.
It's all about fun, you know, and that's what these guys are doing. They're having fun out there. Even though the ice isn't the greatest this year, it's pond hockey.
It's good to see visitors come in the middle of winter time when we're at our slowest.
I mean, we're here to support the community. In the summertime, it's just all lake goers and vacation people. So I think this is a nice little financial injection in the community in the dead of winter, and everybody kind of rallies around it.
Windermere hopes to heal the economic burns of last summer and carry Sealy Lake through a successful and profitable winter. Donal Lakatua, MTN News, Sealy Lake.
The pond hockey tournament continues tomorrow with playoffs starting at 9:30 in the morning. Proceeds are donated to youth hockey leagues, the local school in Sealy, and the event promotes local business. And in national news, TSA security screeners had their hands full during the holiday season. The agency says they screened more than 42 million passengers passing through airports across the nation. That's a new record for the TSA. Security workers also screened close to 31 million bags during the same period, which is counted from December 5th to January 2nd. The agency says it also saw a record number of passengers during the Thanksgiving holiday, but officials say they still managed to keep the wait time below 20 minutes for 97% of passengers. The Centers for Disease Control wants to get everyone ready for the possibility of a nuclear war, but they don't want people to freak out about it. CDC officials will meet on January 16th in Atlanta to discuss personal safety measures and federal and local response team training for nuclear detonation. Some of the presentation topics include preparing for the unthinkable and roadmap to radiation preparedness. But the CDC says the meeting is not tied to the recent tensions between the United States and North Korea. The planning for the meeting was set up last April. And on this cold weekend, many are reading a new best-selling book about the Trump presidency called Fire and Fury. The president today dismissed it as a work of fiction. Mr. Trump also declared himself a, quote, very stable genius. Errol Barnett has more on this story.
Got a lot of work done, a lot of great work for the people.
Despite President Trump's important weekend at Camp David, where he's setting his 2018 agenda, he began the day defending his mental fitness, tweeting, quote, my two greatest assets have been mental stability and being like really smart, going on to say he is a very stable genius.
I did a quick interview with him a long time ago having to do with an article, but I don't know this man.
It's a defense against characterizations made by Michael Wolff, author of the book Fire and Fury.
I think that he's intellectually incapable of being president of the United States.
Wolff says he stands by his account, which relies on a wide range of White House staffers' perspectives.
The story that I've told seems to present this presidency in such a way that it says he can't do this job.
Today's Camp David press conference highlighted the president's support among Republicans, with congressional leaders meeting to discuss Mr. Trump's request of $18 billion for a border wall. Democrats demand any new funding address the status of undocumented workers' children.
In some form, Mexico will pay for the wall. The wall's going to happen or we're not going to have DACA.
And when pressed on if he encouraged Jeff Sessions not to recuse himself from the Russia investigation, the president was not clear.
The story, by the way, in the Times was way off, or at least off. but everything that I've done is 100% proper. That's what I do, is I do things proper.
Now, even though President Trump says he stands by his Attorney General, Mr. Sessions was not invited to this weekend's retreat. The president also blames his former strategist, Steve Bannon, for allowing the Fire and Fury author into the White House, saying, quote, "That is why Sloppy Steve is looking for a job." Errol Barnett, CBS News, the White House.
The Trump administration has released its master plan for securing the border. The total cost will be $33 billion over a 10-year period. $18 billion will be needed for the border wall, according to Customs and Border Protection. Documents another $15 billion will be needed for technology, personnel, and readiness. The administration's plan spreads the cost and construction over the next decade. For fiscal year 2018, the request is for 60 miles of primary wall and 14 miles of secondary wall, costing $1.6 billion. The numbers increase in subsequent years. Congress has not yet agreed to appropriate any of the administration's requests for funds for the border wall. And coming up after the break, we are expecting some mild temperatures along with cloudy skies tomorrow, but meteorologist Russ Thomas will be back with our look at our 7-day forecast.